What to do when you feel that you have it all figured out in your head, like in your brain is super clear, yet when you have to explain your work and when you actually have to turn all of those thoughts into words, you somehow get confused and it doesn't turn out as you wanted. So this is a very common problem, especially when we are doing interviews. So we are required to explain our previous work that we did in another job, or when we are at presentations and someone asks us some random question that we weren't expecting. So why does this happen? Like, why do you feel it's so clear in your brain, and yet when you have to explain it and actually say it comes out in such a confusing way? This happens usually because our thoughts are not as clear as we thought they were. What does this mean? This means that we tend to say a lot of things. Our thoughts move at a very high speed, and sometimes our speaking apparatus cannot really materialize them in a way that is as efficient as our brain is. Because as if you ever did the exercise of observing your thoughts, you could see that it's really, they are like one after the other. It's very, very fast. And yet then we need to do this exercise of filtering which kind of stuff do I want to say. And in between of those two actions, we sometimes get stuck. And this is especially important, and it happens a lot to STEM professionals who have to explain something that is objectively really, really complex, because our work as scientists, engineers, data scientists, developers is oftentimes very, very complex and difficult to understand to people who are not in our specific field. So when we have to explain it and say it, and there is so much that we want to say, but also make sure that it is clear to the person who is listening, it can be really, really challenging for us to successfully bridge that gap between our thoughts and how we should verbalize them in order for them to be understandable to other people. So the problem is that we are actually trying to say too much. We are not doing this thought management in a way that is easy for us and efficient for us and the other people who are actually listening to what we are trying to say. So what can we do in order to really simplify this process and make sure that we can dominate, so that what we have in our brain is clearly said and understood by the people who are listening? So the thing that we have to take into account is that whenever we are trying to verbalize our thoughts, especially if they are complex thoughts regarding something complex like STEM work usually is, we have to be very focused and very intentional with what we are trying to say. Sometimes in the attempt to, because we are so passionate about our work, in the attempt to explain so much, we don't end up explaining anything. So the tip would be to focus exactly on the question that the people asked you. For example, if you're doing an interview and they asked you something specific about your previous job or the work that you're currently doing, try to be as specific as possible. And then when you give this specific answer, then you can sort of pivot from there and expand a little bit from there. It will be much better for you because you will give this instant to your brain to think for a second, to think for a moment and stop and really process the information. Because sometimes we really tend to just say as many things and say really what we think in the exact way our thoughts are organized, but people unfortunately cannot read our minds yet. So it's really hard for them to really meet us where we are at. So we should do exactly the opposite thing, meet them when they are at. And one of the ways to do so is to be really laser focused and answer the specific question in a specific way. This will give sort of you a moment to think about your next sentence and what you want to say, and it will really release this pressure that you have. Okay, I need to answer as fast as possible, especially if you're in an interview. I need to answer super fast. I need to provide the optimal answer, and the more I say, the better it is. Actually, oftentimes it's quite the opposite. So just answer super specifically and then go on from there. This will buy you some time to think, some time to process, and try to make it as concise as possible. Especially nowadays, people don't have time, they are very busy, and they just ask you something and they want a specific answer. So try to be as specific as possible. And if you see that the person is really not understanding you, you can always ask them and say, okay, does this make sense to you? Because at the end of the day, we often forget that we are talking to humans. And if you show your humanness and your human part, people are more than responsive to that. So if you ask them, like, was this clear enough, or do you want me to specify something more? This is something that really can get you some time, buy you some time to structure these thoughts in a way that can really benefit both you, because it will lift this pressure that we were mentioning, and also the people who are listening to you. And this specific thing is something that we work a lot in my coaching program. So I work in my coaching program with STEM professionals, who specifically scientists, engineers, data scientists, who struggle with their communication skills. Specifically, they feel that they have so much in their brain, but they cannot really put it together in a way that it's clear. They struggle every time they have to present their work. They feel that this is keeping them stuck in their career, and they are the typical ones struggling at 3 a.m., the 3 a.m. panic attack that you have before your presentation. So if this is you and you feel that you would need some help with these specific issues, I invite you to join my coaching program. I will leave a link down below, and you can schedule a completely free discovery call in which we can discuss your specific needs, your specific challenges that you're facing right now in your STEM career communication-wise, and see if we are a good fit to work together. Because in my coaching program, we train these skills. We make sure that you really know how to handle these situations. We do interview mock-ups, we do presentation rehearsal, structuring of the presentation, all of the things that a STEM professional would need in order to make sure that the broader audience is aware of how brilliant and efficient their work is. So I hope you will find this video useful, and see you next time. Bye bye.